So have you ever been in a car and hear a song coming through your speakers and instantly remember all the words? Do memories of another time or place, and this is usually the case, events, flood your brain? That happens to me all the time. If I'm on my way to work or even walking down the street and a song hits my ears and bam, I'm somewhere else. I remember the good times and the bad times. I've even had it happen to me when I'm just walking around not really looking for music at all. That happens a lot in grocery stores. Not really sure why. But that's what this channel is about. My music memories. Things that flood into my head while hearing that song.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi.
This song is The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. Now, I don't have a specific event surrounding this song. It's more of a feeling. When I hear this song, I'm consumed by a feeling of warmth and the afternoon darkness of my parents' home. I don't actually remember when I first heard this song. I just remember I was pretty young. I mean, this song did come out in 1976. I do recall listening to the song on my parents' living room floor. My dad really liked the song, probably due to the fact that, well, it was a true story. My dad was always a history buff. I remember looking through a pretty large collection of World War II books when I was a kid. Fortunately for me, they were usually academic books, meaning there weren't too many pictures in them. I remember this because later, on the 50th anniversary of World War II, Maclean's magazine, well, that was a pretty big magazine in Canada back in the 80s, well, they did a retrospective all about the war. My dad must have bought the magazine and brought it home. My mom was more of a free spirit, not one to usually dwell on history. Well, one day, I flipped through the magazine, looking at the pictures. Most were easily forgotten, but one stuck with me for my entire life. It was a picture of one of the concentration camps in all its awful detail. It was the 80s, and there was no warning stickers or anything back then. Music didn't even have the advisory sticker warning people that, they were swearing on the album. That wouldn't happen until Two Live Crew and NWA would become famous. But that picture made me physically ashamed. I felt awful that I could be in the same species as someone who could do that to another person. And that feeling stalked me throughout my entire life. I mean, I understand the violence of people. I do. But this was something else. Thinking back now, I now realize that picture really hit me. I still don't watch war movies. I've never seen Schindler's List and never will. I understand it's probably a really inspirational story, but it's not something I feel like I could handle. I generally shy away from all war movies and TV shows. I've never seen Patton or Apocalypse Now, and Band of Brothers and MASH will never be seen by my eyes. Through my dad, I did know the broad strokes about World War II, though. But I've always tried to keep my knowledge to more of a political and espionage side of things. I realize that human beings have done some very horrific things over history. But when it comes specifically to World War II, I stick my head in the sand. It was so bad for our species. I don't want aliens to show up and think that I am anywhere near the same monster that had anything to do with those atrocities. I know that I'm no saint, but damn, I know I'm not whatever the hell he was. My dad really talked to me about the story of the sinking ship called Edmund Fitzgerald. He told me about the storm and even a little bit of history of the Great Lakes. We hadn't started learning about them yet in school. While my dad talked, I could see the event coming to life in my head. The bad storm rolling across Lake Superior and the fear of the sailors were vivid images in my noggin. He patiently answered any questions I had about the event, and I probably had a bunch. But, now I know where Whitefish Bay is. It was around that time that I got introduced to the Peanuts encyclopedias. See, back then, grocery stores would use the Columbia House Music Club pricing model when it came to things that weren't actually food. Books, for example. They would have the first book of the set. It was probably for the letters A and B for $1. They would release or display the next volume the next week. So you'd have to wait a week to get your hands on that next book. And they would usually charge more for the remaining volumes too. I think it was probably in the area of about $5.99. Now, I know what you're thinking. It doesn't seem like that much money. But remember, this was the mid-'80s. Prices were very different back then. I mean, a chocolate bar back then was 45 cents. Next time you're out, take a look and see how much they are now, and you'll understand exactly what I mean. These books had peanuts helping children learn. I was already in love with the Charlie Brown Christmas and It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown holiday TV specials, so I knew who the characters were. It was there that I learned how many bones were in the human body. 206 in an adult, and a few more in kids. I guess that's also where I learned how to do research. If I found a topic that I was interested in, I would go to the library and read everything I could about it. The library was the place that I could hide from the troubles at home. I read so much. I read all of the Tintin French comic books and everything I could read by Shel Silverstein in the quiet solitude of my local public library. I do think it's a shame that kids nowadays will never know the spectacle of flipping through an endless supply of books. Now libraries are filled with DVDs and computers. I wonder, do people nowadays even know what the Dewey Decimal System is? Maybe I'm just too old for this shit. So after my dad finally answered all my questions about the boat in Lake Superior, I had questions about the singer. And that was where my dad tapped out. My mom was the music expert in the house. She told me about Gordon Lightfoot. She even played a few of his songs. Sundown was the real standout, but I didn't really like it. I'm just not a fan of his music. What I like is the story. I like the idea of telling a story through song. To me, it seemed the accompaniment of music made the story last much, much longer in my head. My love of a good story and good music has led me down some strange musical paths over the years, places that I could have not foreseen. My love of Ice-T, for example. His album, OG, Original Gangster, had songs on it that told a story. And being a white kid from Canada in the 80s, there were stories that I'd never heard of, so I gobbled it up. I think music nowadays simply concentrates on making a splash, being the soundbite. It doesn't really have anything to say, unless you really try. What I mean is that you can honestly find meaning in anything if you try hard enough. But if I need to dig for the meaning of a song, then you need to write it better. It's like having to explain a joke. It's just not funny then. But most songs today tell people about how great the artist is or how much money they have. It's not about a plot with a beginning, middle, and an end. The music part may be catchy, but then you're just attached to the music, not the lyrics. And I think that seems to be a shame. I like stories, whether they come with an accompanying backbeat or paper cuts. I don't really care. If they tell a compelling story, I'm always down for that. Thanks for listening to another story that fell out of my head. Do you know any songs that have a good story? If you do, please let me know. I love good music, and I always love good stories as well. So as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.